going to talk about forgiveness. I know this is a very tough topic for a lot of people, but it's something that is bothersome to many. So I want to talk about it and give you more information to try to help you with this issue. One of the things that's common to hear is forgiveness is not about the other person. Forgiveness is to help you. One of the things that I always say is the Bible tells you to forgive. It tells you to forgive because it's difficult to do. And if no one tells you to do it, you'll never do it. You'll be angry all the time. And yes, that anger does turn on you eventually and starts to hurt you. Forgiveness is a journey. It's challenging. It's hard. You might take 2 steps forward and 2 backwards. Some of you need to forgive yourselves. So forgiveness for some people was one huge event, and for other people it's a lot of things that can build up over time and become something that really makes them angry. So who do you need to forgive? If someone upsets you, try to put yourself in that person's shoes and look at their perspective and where they're coming from. Once somebody hurts you, you're left with the challenge of, do I forgive that person for the grievances that they did and let it go so that I can heal? Or do I hold on to it because I'm so angry? It's a choice. So I want you to start rethinking of what your definition of forgiveness is all about. It doesn't mean giving in, and it also doesn't mean that you're giving the other person permission to do whatever bad thing they did to you. It doesn't mean that you pretend like nothing happened, and it also doesn't mean that you tell yourself that you don't have the right to be angry. You might also think that forgiveness means that you have to get along with somebody who might hurt you again. So let's talk about what forgiveness is not. Forgiveness doesn't mean that you're forgetting the other person's actions. You don't want somebody to get into an abusive pattern with you because you're forgiving and letting it go. Forgiveness does not mean that you shouldn't have any more feelings about the situation. Forgiveness doesn't mean that there's not going to be more that you need to work out in a relationship. And it doesn't mean that you have to forget that the incident never happened. It did happen, and now you have to address it and take steps to move forward. Okay, so let's talk about a better way to define what forgiveness really is. It's about putting to better use the energy that you're being used instead of holding grudges, resentment, nursing old wounds. It's energy that you're using that could be used in a better, more productive way. Forgiveness is about moving on. It's about choosing a more peaceful or happy existence over this anger that you're justifying every day. It's about refusing to just keep replaying past hurts in your mind repeatedly. Let's talk about how to forgive. Something that offends me might not offend you. It's about perspective. It's about how we view things. If there's somebody that's frustrated you or made you angry or hurt your feelings and they normally don't, give them a pass. And sometimes people can make up things in their own heads and justify them based on another situation that they have going on in their life and blame you for it when you had nothing to do with it. So sometimes we have to look at ourselves. Forgiveness requires the conscious, active decision to let go of things that are negative in your life and try to move on with your life. If you're angry at somebody, I want you to try to be objective. Was what the person did intentional? Were the circumstances beyond that person's control? Has the person attempted to apologize and make things right? Another way for you to forgive other people is to remember what it feels like to be forgiven. I'm sure you've done something hurtful to somebody and they forgave you, so do the same thing for somebody else. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have to sometimes set standards, and we're all a work in progress. I know I am. There are things that I have to work on daily. Believe it or not, I know y'all think I'm perfect, but I'm not. I have a lot of flaws. And yeah, I have a lot of things that I have to work on. So we're all in this together. It's always good to find a positive way to express yourself, like painting, writing music, writing a letter, keeping a journal to release destructive negative emotions, to relieve tension. And then you want to look for others for inspiration. So do a little research into a story that where someone has exercised forgiveness, and give it time. Everybody likes overnight, and it's not going to be overnight. I wish it could be, but it's not. So have some patience. Give yourself a month, 2 months, a year. And remember, don't jump to conclusions or react too quickly. Text messages are an example of that. Instead of jumping to conclusions and reacting too quickly, think about the history that you have with somebody, and use that as your barometer. So have some compassion. Try understanding what the other person's motives or intentions were. Was she deliberately trying to hurt you? Did she have your best interests at heart? Or was he simply being careless? Now, if there's someone who repeatedly does something to you and it's this pattern of just awfulness, I'm sure you've already taken the time to figure out why that person is hurting so bad. And maybe that person hasn't made those connections, but you have. It seems like relationships seem to be the punching bag, or the place where I'm going to act out everything that everybody else did to me on this person. Now, that person might trigger some of the same things that happened to you in your childhood, but that's not the person. Many times that person is innocent. They are not the ones who have made you angry and are hurting you. It's called displaced anger in psychology. You're displacing it. You're taking something that you're angry at this other person, and then you're coming home and blaming it on your spouse. That's wrong. Sometimes you're angry at someone else when you might need to be a little angrier at yourself for the things that you're doing, or you're so busy being angry at somebody that you're not realizing what you have. Don't say or do anything that you can't take back. Throwing out angry insults at somebody might feel good in the moment, but later you can't take it back. It seems like in relationships, people are really bad with this. It's like you can't make any mistakes. You can't ever be frustrated. You can't ever say anything hurtful. So I kind of feel on the fence about that, because I think sometimes people give up too quickly. You know somebody's really angry. What do people do when they get angry? Sometimes they do say hurtful things they don't mean. So maybe you need to establish a guideline. So I think sometimes it's okay to forgive. I think you have to have a conversation about it and make some things clear on what's okay, what's not okay. How do you translate this when I'm really upset or really tired? But at the same time, if you're always insulting somebody when you get mad, keep in mind that you need to get that under control, because words can be extremely hurtful and extremely painful, and you don't want to damage somebody that you really care about. You want to build them up. Always build people up. If you're in an argument with somebody and you tend to be someone who withdraws for punishment, instead of doing that, say, I need a little time to think, a little time to process. Can we, in a couple of hours, maybe talk about it once I've had some time to calm down? I mean, make statements that are clear, because sometimes you could be the one that's being irrational and blaming it on the other person, and that's not fair either. Something I want to share with you from Dyer, who is one of the greatest thought leaders ever. He was amazing. He said, you want to switch the focus from blaming others to understanding yourself. The second thing he said was, be kind instead of right. And the third thing that he said was, stop looking for occasions to be offended. Some people haven't worked out some inner anxieties and frustrations and anger. There are people who are constantly searching for somebody to be mad at, and that's because they haven't dealt with themselves. So by forgiving, remember that you're accepting that something that happened that you didn't like actually did happen, and you're finding a way to make peace with it. And it doesn't have to include the person that you're forgiving. You can do it on your own. That's the good part about it. You can make peace. Realize that the person might not even be aware that they've done anything wrong. Accept people as they are. We're all flawed human beings. Some people will never change. They are who they are. Sometimes we put people on a pedestal that they can't fall off of, and they make one mistake and you want to treat them like the person who's made 1,000 mistakes with you that you've forgiven hundreds of times. Ask yourself this hard question. Do you have a different set of standards for yourself than you do for other people? It's called hypocrisy, hypocrites. That's something that always kind of bothers me. I always say I don't like hypocrites. And know that everyone has blind spots, that we just sort of miss and that we need to work on. So make sure that there's somebody in your life that you haven't forgiven. Just start working on that today. Sometimes when people are in a different space in their life or a different time period in their life, they think differently. So if there's somebody that you've been estranged from, that person hopefully has grown over time, and maybe you can get that relationship back. Well, I hope this helps somebody out there today. That's always the purpose. So if you like my video, please give me a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. So enjoy your day. Bye.